Are you going to introduce us?
Yeah, should I?
Oh, God. Do it. Be shameless.
Hello, I am Alex, and I am here with Amanda.
I'm Amanda.
Pregnant Amanda.
Totally pregnant. Who are you?
I am Alex. I run We Are the Media, which is a news blog for Amanda. I post weekly updates and summaries of what she's doing and highlights of interviews and stuff.
And I heard a rumor that you just graduated uni like a day ago.
I did that too. I'm now an adult.
You're not an adult. For Christ's sake. Yes, and where are you from?
Where am I
Tell
from?
the peoples.
I am from Wiltshire in England.
He's British. But we are in Leeds. I just got off stage. It was a really good show. It was a very grown-up show. It was a super grown-up venue.
Fancy.
It was pretty fancy.
Amanda Fancy Palmer.
I thought I still brought it, though the venue was...
You did?
Like, I had to fight the fancy. Sometimes you have to fight the fancy. Was it good?
It was good. It was great.
Yeah, it was good.
Made me cry a little bit. Okay, so you are pregnant. We have a few questions about the pregnancy, because it's the thing that people are talking about. Do you feel, you slightly touched on it in the show in terms of your songwriting, but do you feel that now you're going to become a mother, you'll have to show a different side of yourself than you currently do in your life? Kind of tap into a side of yourself that you're not used to using. Obviously,
I'm assuming that when one births another human, one must effectively change. Because one must. Because I'm going to have to be a parent. Like it or not, I'm going to have to be, no matter what I am, I'm going to have to include mother in the list of jobs that I do. And I have no fucking idea what's going to happen. In fact, I'm really enjoying, it's like this clock is counting down, you know, 5.5 months pregnant now, and I'm just like, I have 3 more months and change of being a not mother, and then I'm going to be a mother forever for the rest of my life, and my life is going to change drastically and never be the same again. I'm kind of doing it the Amanda Palmer way, which is like, I'll figure it out when I get there. I'm not gonna think too much about it, which is driving Neil, of course, fucking crazy, because he's like, let's make plans, and I'm like, no! I think I would be crazy to think that this isn't gonna fundamentally change some things about me, but I'm also pretty excited to see what doesn't change. Like, I think people do sometimes think that there's this appropriate way that parents must be, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's bullshit.
once the child is here, do you think you will ever bring the child into the limelight with you, so like bring it on stage? Because, for example, Tori Amos has recorded songs with her daughter. Do you think you would ever do that, or would you try to take the approach of, like, I think Pink, like, shields her children from the spotlight?
I think we're gonna do a lot of shielding until the kid manifests some kind of desire in one way or another. I think it would be really awful to like constantly tweet pictures of the child and be like, look, a thing, or a thing. I have no desire to thrust this child into social media, and I'm actually so suspicious of the negative effects of like phones and iPads on kids. Like, nothing makes me more depressed than going into a restaurant and seeing a couple of people with their 2-year-old who's like sitting there on an iPad. It makes me want to cry. So I have a feeling that even though I'm like Amanda Queen of the internet and like constant user of phone, and so is Neil, I actually kind of want to give the kid a chance to just be a person that is not attached to a device and who is not constantly competing for mommy and daddy's attention because we're constantly on our phones. I think our phones are going to be very banished in a way that they never have been before, so that we can actually pay real attention to our child. Because I think even as adults, we have a hard time sometimes dealing with, and I see this with my friends, like people have a really hard time dealing with like the attention that you give to your phone and the attention that you give to the people who are in the room. And I think kids are so much more sensitive, you know. And then if the kid is 16, I don't know how old Tori's daughter is. I think she's like 15 or 16 or something.
I think.
Yeah, and like I think is going to theater school and wants to be on the stage and is psyched to be a performer. And that might happen to our kid. Or our kid might be like, fuck that, I have no interest in that. What I really want to do is paint. Or what I really want to do is like study maths. Or what I really want to do is make shoes. And if our kid just really wants to make shoes, like, of course we're not going to drag our kid on stage, but if our kid is a stage whore, it's like, great, we can help you with that. We have a stage. Like, you can come up and whore yourself right along with us. Go for it. But you don't know what kind of kid you're gonna have. And I definitely don't want to be the kind of, art Nazi parent who like...
Let them discover themselves.
Totally, yeah, I make no assumptions about what this child is going to be and whether they're even going to be an artist. This kid might not be an artist, and that's fucking fine. We have 2 artists in the family. We have enough ego to go around already, kid. Do your maths.
So you said you try and kind of lessen the phone contact, concentrate on the child. Do you think, obviously a lot of your fan base interaction is based on how intense you are with your fans and how close you are and how contactable you are? Mm-hmm. Obviously the child has to be the priority, but then do you think that how will your work tie into that?
I don't know. I think it's going to be an improv, and I think, I've watched other friends of mine who've become new parents, and I think they just learn a new set of juggling skills. The same way I had to learn to juggle my relationship with Neil and social media, and he had to learn to juggle his relationship with me and social media, because it's actually too depressing. Like, we would get together, we wouldn't have seen each other in 3 weeks, but we're so into and obsessed with our Twitter feeds and, what is going on the internet and the effect of our work and how this article is doing and how someone is reacting to this project, that if we didn't create some boundaries and actually sit and talk about it, the 2 of us would just like sit there together, checking our Twitter feeds and chatting with people, and like, that's just not good. So I think it's a similar thing with a kid, and you can feel it. I mean, anytime, and you can feel it with your friends, you can feel it with your partner, you can feel it, when you're not actually paying attention to real life, and you can tell when the balance is fucked up. And I think with the kid will demand a new set of sensors to go like, yeah, we are being those assholes right now, we need to actually like go for an actual walk where we stick our phones in the drawer and we don't turn them on for 5 hours. And I also think there's something about, the importance of, being with a kid that will make it easy to do that. I have found that with really personal stuff in my life, it's like when it gets so personal, you don't want to share it with the internet. You're too tuned into the universe and wanting to enjoy it. So I don't think I'm going to be like selfieing labor.
What do you think is the one most important thing to impart on your child?
I mean, the obvious, to be kind, probably, to be compassionate. I think, I see so many hypocritical parents who sort of preach to their children, but then are assholes in front of their children and are sort of like telling their children to be, even people sort of like in the hippy-dippy, like kindness community and the yoga community will be sort of like preaching these concepts and precepts to their child, and then they will like turn around and start yelling at people, and I'm like, yeah, your kid isn't gonna listen to you, your kid's gonna watch you. And if you're an asshole who yells at people in traffic and barks at waitstaff and, is constantly complaining about the people around you, that's what your kid is going to be, that's what your kid is going to learn. So I think the kid, if anything, is just going to kick up my self-awareness of, how compassionate I'm actually being, because my kid is going to be soaking all of that up and watching me. Taking
a step away from the pregnancy, is anything going to happen with the bed show in the future?
The bed show, if you don't know what the bed show is, the bed show was the sort of like starting seeds of a musical that I worked on this past fall, and I wrote a couple of new songs for it and workshopped some stuff with these kids at Bard College. I tend to go back to a theater project every 2 or 3 years because I kind of go crazy if I don't do a little bit of theater. And one of the things about having a kid is like I'm going to be very excited to do projects that can keep me in one place for a while. As realistic as it is to bring a kid on the road, and I know you can bring a kid on the road, lots of people have, taken kids on the road, taken their partners, taken a nanny. I could have done tonight and like I would be right down here right now, like with the baby post show, feeding it. Like I have a lot of friends who've done that, but it's not the easiest way to tour. And I have a great Neil Gaiman who's like very excited to take care of a baby but has no desire to live in a tour bus and take care of a baby. So I'm gonna be pretty keen, I think, in the next few years to do projects where I just like be in one place, and theater is a great
So could the bed show be one of these projects?
The bed show might be one of those projects, or some variation on the bed show. I might do something in London. I might do something in New York. I might go and do something in Sydney. I don't know what I'm going to do. I wasn't totally happy with the way that version of the bed show came out. It kind of, a lot of the starting points were good, but then by the time we got to the actual performance of it, it had sort of fallen apart a little bit. But some of the songs were great, and some of the ideas were great. And as a starting point,
yeah,
it sort of reminded me of what I love about theatre, and I could certainly see what didn't work, so that I could reverse and go like, okay, it's, you know, the show's not going to be that. It might be a little more like this. I might want to do, you know, if I'm going to create songs in a workshop, I might want to create them a little bit more like this and not like that. You know, I had fun doing it, but it's certainly nowhere near a finished product.
If you could go back in history and collaborate with an artist on one project in any time, what project would you have liked to collaborate
I hate those questions.
You may prefer the next question, which
I'd like
is...
to just go give Jim Morrisson a blowjob, just so just so I could say I did it. That's the collaboration I would like.
Through all of your back catalogue, which is now a possibility with Patreon,
I see where this is going.
which one song would you like to make a music video for?
There's a couple. I'd really love to make a video for Half Jack. The more I think about it, the more excited I am to make videos for old songs, especially because one of the things that has been depressing me in general is the amount of focus on things that I'm doing that aren't music. I kind of don't care if people are focusing on music, you know, or focusing on music that I wrote 6 months ago or music that I wrote 6 years ago. I'm just happy when people recognize the fact that I'm a songwriter and not just like Amanda Palmer, a controversial TED speaker, because I'm like, that's not what I am. Like, beyond all that, I actually write music. I've written a lot of music. Most people don't even know that I've written a lot of music. What I'd really like is for people to know that I've written a lot of music and that a lot of it is good. And that, you know, all of these things that have happened, like the Kickstarter and the controversies and the book and the TED Talk, didn't happen by accident, you know. And sometimes I wonder whether I'm crazy and like a little deluded and like more insecure than I need to be about stuff like that, but it really does drive me crazy. I'm still so proud of so much of the stuff I've written.
You should be.
And I also find that when I go back and I work on old stuff, it inspires me to make new stuff. You know, I also think it's a great way to give work to my filmmaking friends, because I love working with my filmmaker friends. I love making videos. I love the process of it. It's really fun. It'll depend on where I am. It'll depend on kind of what the budgets are, which director and filmmaker I choose to make these things with.
So this tour at the moment is seated venues, and usually in the past you've pretty much always played standing shows, and especially the last tour was with the whole band, so it's very much a rock show. Is there a difference between the big rock show and tight crowd standing in a club and these kind of fancy theatres with you with a grand piano and everyone sat down? And is there a difference in dynamic, and is it harder to connect to the audience, and how do you deal with that change?
It's funny, Eric and I were literally just talking about this before you came in tonight, because the crowd tonight was like clearly very into the show, but really quiet. The crowd in Manchester was way louder and more connected. And it's always hard for me to figure out what those factors are, like whether it's the day of the week, whether it's the city, whether it's the crowd, whether it's the venue is sort of intimidating people. The venue in Manchester was like just as kind of grown up and fancy and seated, but for some reason the crowd connected a little bit more. But also the way it was set up, I felt a little closer to the crowd and it felt a little more intimate. Tonight it was like girl on stage, everybody in black, very sort of like theatrical, you know, you're watching a play and you're not supposed to make any noise signals. And it sometimes feels like it doesn't matter how much I sort of like try and break the fourth wall and talk to the crowd and make them remember that they're actually there. Sometimes the venue, if it's too fancy, can crush the crowd. That being said, I love being able to sit at a piano and play something like the Bed Song or the Smiths cover or the Kimmy Dawson song and just hear silence. Because as fun as it is to play rock shows where everyone is standing and there's two bars functioning in different places and people are coming and going, and that keeps the energy up, when you dial back and you play the quiet stuff, it's a nightmare. And it is a nightmare to play the bed song and hear like a group of people talking over there and the ice machine and the cash register and the people coming and going, because you just don't get the same amount of emotion because you're just you're battling the environment. So it's sort of pros and cons. And you know, the Dresden Dolls, in all of our years of touring, we wound up in some seated venues, and it was the same sort of thing where it's like certain songs would really, really shine because people would really sit and watch us and listen and see what we did and appreciate it in a way that they couldn't if they were kind of in a distracted crowd. So it's like, it's pros and cons, but clearly for a show like this, making people stand there for 4 hours and barely move would be cruel. So this was the right call for a tour like this.
It worked well. Good show.
Thanks, love.
Thank you for joining me and answering some questions.
Yeah, and maybe we will do this again at some point.
I would like to. That would be nice. Yes, wearethemedia.tumblr.com, and we have a Twitter account, wearethemedia_. Because someone took We Are The Media.
Those cunts. Fuckers.
God damn it. But anyway, on that
note, we'll put all of that stuff in the text. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, little Alex. Congratulations on graduating. And turn the camera around for 2 seconds. That's Cookie filming. Bye, everybody. Ciao.
Ciao.